Mankind, moments from now, inside this boiler room, you're being forced to take on Santa Claus.
Well, if you believe in Santa Claus, then believe this, my friend.
The $1 million man is both Santa!
If he's not the real Santa Claus, give me a hell no.
I celebrate Hanukkah. Why am I doing this?
It's Christmas.
Santa is wrestling Kurt Angle and Armageddon.
St. Nicholas is a saint.
Do it for Santa, man.
Do it for Santa. Do it for Santa. Do it for Santa.
It's the most restful time of the year.
This is the Christmas preacher.
Welcome to the McGuire on Wrestling Christmas Special, the Holiday Hullabaloo. Here's Mike McGuire.
Welcome to part 2 of the McGuire on Wrestling Holiday Hullabaloo 2. Taking a look at the past year in wrestling with some special guests. Yeah, we're not doing a big omnibus. We're just choosing some special guests and then our own podcasters coming together for the first time. All 5 of us from around the world coming together to just talk about wrestling. Kind of the fun way that we like to do here. But thank you for being here. If you're just discovering the show, and I'm guessing there's some people here that might be just discovering the show because of the guests we have this week, which I promise you, I was going to do my best to get you the best, and I think we've done so far. If you missed part 1, head to McGuireShow.com or just look up McGuire on Wrestling wherever you get your podcasts, and you can hear conversations with Bret the Hitman Hart, RJ City, and Dan the Mouth Lavransky. Also surprised our friend Joe Aguinaldo with a visit from Bret Hart in the middle of that interview. That was a ton of fun. Bret shares some great stories and also talks about his experience on Monday Night Raw in 2024 in Calgary. So a lot of great stories there, and I highly recommend you checking it out. Again, it's all for free. It's not behind any paywalls or anything. Just look up McGuire on Wrestling and find part 1 of the Holiday Hullabaloo for this year, and you can check that out. Now, as we continue with part 2, we've got some loaded guests for you again. Our first guest is a guy who I've come to lean on quite a bit over the past few years since I officially got into doing wrestling radio and wrestling podcasts. A big shout out to all the radio stations that help support this show as well. But this guy is someone who I think that whether you're a fan of the old school or the new school or anywhere in between, if you've ever read a wrestling article on any website, any history can usually be attributed to this man. Greg Oliver is an accomplished author. He is a journalist. We'll give him the full intro here in just a second, but getting a chance to share some memories with Greg, I think you'll see why I enjoy talking to him so much, and I hope you'll enjoy the conversation we have here as well. But stick around, as you may have seen in the headlines, yes, WWE Smackdown General Manager Nick Aldis and his wife and new host of WWE LFG, which is coming up this new year, Mickie James, going to be joining us, plus the whole team gets together. Let's roll on with Greg Oliver in the Holiday Hullabaloo 2. Joining us now, a man who I have an infinite amount of respect for. We've had him on the show numerous times in the past, usually relating to some sort of historic detail. Was actually a big help to me in the Leo Burke special we did earlier this year. But ladies and gentlemen, author, historian, website founder, columnist, journalist, fan extraordinaire, the one and only Greg Oliver is here. How are you, sir?
I'm good. That's quite the introduction. Thank you.
But it's all real. That's the great thing. You've earned all that. So congratulations.
It's all real. It's pro wrestling. Come on.
I know. It's so much fun when we have this conversation because you like to play almost a curmudgeon-y sort of like, oh, come on now, it's wrestling. But after getting to know you after the last few years here, I still see the fandom. I still see the passion. And I'll never forget, and I'm going to cherish this moment of you posting a photo, smiling with a wrestler like a mark in a photo.
Really? Did I do that?
Yeah, you did that. And that was the best part was that, you know what, it's because that's something I always get grief for, mostly from you. But it was
Who was it? I don't even remember.
I don't remember. It was earlier this year, but I even commented on it, smiling like in a photo like a mark, but it was pretty great. So
it's
anyway.
Funny though, even today, I was talking to my wife, and it's like I feel like a fraud a little bit in the hockey world, even though I've done a lot of stuff there still. But I don't feel like that in the wrestling world. That's for sure. I know I've earned my stuff, and though I may not have everybody on site is a fan. I know I've done a lot of stuff and contributed a lot, and more importantly, helped a lot of people along the way. And that's a big part of it, right? It's not all about me. It's about helping other people and certainly helping preserve the history of this ridiculous sport that is not documented, right? It's like when I did the John Gibbons book, you can find out, which pitch in which inning and what the weather was like when he hit his first home run. Wrestling, it's like, good luck with that. Well, we think that, Leo Burke had his first match here, but then you find out a year later that, it was actually 2 months earlier. It's like, wrestling's weird that way.
We have Dave Meltzer on the show every week, and he's got that almost eidetic memory when it comes to pulling up numbers and facts from stories gone by. And I feel like I can do the same with you almost. I can almost bring up anybody in pro wrestling's past, especially in this country, in Canada. And you've just done such a great job of not only, like you said, documenting the history, but getting to know some of these players over the years and getting to share the experiences and tell the stories.
I was going to say, Christmas-wise, though, I was just thinking, though, I really missed the Hamilton Old Timers luncheons, right? So for years, we'd go down to Hamilton, almost always the Mandarin, and, you'd have lunch with Reggie Love, and who else would be there? Billy Red Lions, and then Harry Howell was there. The NHL Hall of Famer would come out because he lived in the same apartment building as Morris Grimbley, who was Hurricane Smith. You didn't know who would show up there, and I would bring the Wolfman down. I brought him a couple times because he didn't drive. I brought Ricky Johnson down once, and that was a mistake. And then, but all these things, right? Those are good Christmas memories. Just Ricky, yeah, he got in trouble at the Mandarin for sneaking in his own beer. So I don't think I'm talking out of turn here. That's a very Ricky-like story. But yeah, so that's when I think of Christmas and wrestling. I immediately think of these Christmas luncheons, and even bringing my little son. He was a little guy. We didn't have school, so he'd go down with me, and we'd have so much fun. The one trip, the Wolfman insisted we go to Walmart to buy him a present. Like, insisted. Like, yeah, and you don't argue with the Wolfman. You don't know what he's saying, but you know when it's serious. So
it's funny you mention that, though, because Christmas, especially in the States, and unfortunately, I never really grew up with this in my time span as a wrestling fan, where the Christmas shows would be the biggest draws because, A, it took me forever to even find independent wrestling, and B, when it did come back, they just didn't do the same circuits like they used to do back in the day. So I'm wondering if during that time as a younger fan, if you remember there being those Christmas or Boxing Day shows that would happen on the regular, and if so, if you ever went to any of those. Not
really. See, I became a fan so late, right? I was like 14, so it's not like there's a little time doing that. And then I started doing my newsletter almost immediately. So yeah, I don't really remember any shows like that. I think there must have been one WWE show, WWF show, coming to the Memorial Auditorium in Kitchener around Christmas, but they usually only came like twice a year. Right. So that was a big deal. Maybe I went to Toronto once during Christmas. I don't have that memory. You talked about, your Meltzer. I don't have that kind of memory to remember those kind of things. And it's more about the people and the experiences than remembering, this guy won with a flying headlock. Like, those things don't matter to me. It's the same with when I talk to a hockey guy or a baseball guy or whatever, like, I want their personal stories. I don't want the details of the actual game. Right? Yeah. Tell me about what it felt like. Tell me about your parents congratulating you afterwards. Like, those kind of things, I think in the end mean a lot more.
And that's why I come to you for stuff like that. I mean, during that Leo Burke special, you told a great story about going up to the Cormier house and being a part of the family reunion. And maybe it's not the exact detail, eidetic memory that way, but I mean, you do have some tremendous experience and stories you've shared throughout the years. I mean, every time you go to the Cauliflower Alley Club, for example, I'm sure it must be just a litany of some of those stories coming back and maybe some new ones being forged.
Heck yeah, that's sometimes you remember them too. Yes, there's often a few drinks involved, but you're right. You form friendships and you never know, what's going to happen. And that's part of the fun of going to these shows and going to these events, right? I went down to St. Louis for the SICW. They did a fan fest back in May, and I had a couple of book leads, and I chatted with the people of this and that, and I thought a couple things were going to work out. Nothing really worked out, but man, I still had a lot of fun. I got to spend time with some really good friends. I got to sit there and, Raz, Gerald Briscoe, and Tom Pritchard, like, guys I don't see that often, right? So, and it's over a beer, so even better.
Just the fact that you have I mean, those are two big names right there that have so much history just in their career, kind of like yourself, you know, when it comes to not just being involved in covering it, but for them, it was, you know, working as wrestlers and then training and shaping the careers of so many people in the future. So like yourself, helping people advance or tell their stories in different ways as well. Do you find that that's a common thread maybe that you share with wrestlers, even though you're never a guy that's been active in the ring, but the actual ability to help them communicate a story is kind of your way of crafting part of a wrestling legacy?
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. I mean, you can take credit all you want, but I know like Pat LaPrade, you know, is a better writer because of the stuff he did for Slam. And then, you know, when he goes off to do the books with Dan Murphy, right, the Sisterhood of the Squared Circle, it's like they used a lot of our research, right? Because Jamie Hemmings and I had talked to so many of the old women that were since gone. So, you know, that's a small example, but there's lots of those too. You know, Steve Johnson and I work so well together, and yeah, he's 10 years senior to me, but that doesn't mean we don't help each other a lot and have contacts. I love the interns. Like, we've been having interns from, you know, TMU to Toronto Metropolitan University or Centennial College. And so to be able to help mold those young minds and remind them, yes, wrestling has to be serious sometimes, but if they're writing a feature, it's like, dude, come on, loosen up here a bit. You know, have some fun with this, right? You can't do that with a Janelle Clark or Janelle Grant story about Vince McMahon, but you can do that if you're writing about, you know, some indie guy, right? What's fun about this person? Tell me something colorful. So that kind of stuff, I think, means a lot. And to see them succeed, even if they don't write about wrestling. Joe Cachero worked with me on the Eric Johnson book, the one about his grandfather, Bull Johnson, and blow up Danny Johnson. And Joe just got a job working at the Score writing about basketball. So it's like, there's one of my kids that sort of went to succeed, and he's old enough to be one of my kids. Like, or I'm old enough to be his father. Like, that's the crazy thing. And as I say that today, my son actually came home from university for the first time here. So yes, it's been a wild day around here.
So what is Christmas like in the Oliver household? I mean, what are some things you like to do over the holidays and enjoy?
I'm not sure how much different my life is day to day, but my brother lives in Los Angeles, and he comes up with his two daughters. My sister-in-law just doesn't like the cold, which is why they live down in California. And my brother's a very high-end basketball coach. He gets called upon by other teams and the NBA to go help coaches. And my nieces are both very high-level basketball players. They're 11 and 13. So every time I see them, they're bigger and bigger. And then on the other side of the family, though, my other niece, she's 6'1" and she's 12, and she plays volleyball. So yes, all of a sudden I'm a shrimp in this family, and but they're all lovely girls, quite a lot of fun to spend time with. And so just seeing all them, seeing my dad, seeing my mother-in-law, and you know, visiting a little bit of family is good. My wife loves to make treats, so even the women at the gym know her as the treat lady, you know, when she comes to the gym with me. So that's how they know her, because I'm the one that delivered the treats that she made.
That'd be my favorite part of going to that gym. Where's the guy with the treat lady stuff?
Well, yeah, see, the calories don't count if they're, you know, if it's over Christmas. That's the rule, right?
Obviously, you're a hockey guy as well. When you got downtime, are you looking to watch wrestling stuff, or are you maybe zoned in on the World Juniors? What are you doing during the holiday break?
Yeah, there might be a little bit of World Junior stuff. I'm not an obsessive watcher till the playoffs in general with hockey, and even in wrestling, it's sort of like more about the big events rather than the week-to-week stuff. So that's really it. I like to, you know, my wife and I like to spend a little bit of time together watching whatever series we may be watching at the time, but I'll find time to watch some documentaries, especially or old movies, and finding old wrestling movies is great. I just, with the help of my current intern Sully Khan, we just revamped our Slam Wrestling movie database, right? Hollywood had a movie database, and reorganize it and finally put it out there that hadn't been out there since we moved back in 2020. So we're working on always making the site better, but it's like, oh, look, here's a movie called Wrestling Queens that came out 3 years ago, and I know nothing about it. and nobody else seems to. So I guess I better find a copy and watch it. Like that's a little project. It's fun, and you get to write something up, and maybe somebody else then finds that movie. That's part of the joy of it all.
And that to me has always been what I've loved about the community of pro wrestling. I mean, there's things that if you get involved in it, automatically you kind of got to prepare yourself for things that aren't great about it. Sometimes you deal with personalities and things like that, and maybe people that take things a little too seriously. But overall, when you can find little hidden treasures and little gems like that, this is something I'm actually on the hunt for. And maybe you know of one. I can tell you right now that two people who I thought would pull something out had nothing for me. But I'm wondering if you know of any wrestling-related Christmas song that wasn't like a weird WWE Night Before Christmas poem. But do you know of any wrestler that has done a holiday song or something like that? I
do not. That's a really good one. And related to that, we actually started building the Music for Cauliflower Ears music database. There's a guy named Justin Crockett who I've gotten to know through the Cauliflower Alley Club, and he's a huge music guy and just loves all this stuff. So you have to have him on down the road once we relaunch this site.
Yeah.
I can't think of any off the hand that's Christmas. I'm sure it exists. It sounds like something the Destroyer probably did when he was in Japan. Just something off the wall crazy like that. I can't think of any offhand, certainly in North America, but it's probably out there somewhere.
I want to talk about your past year covering wrestling, talking about wrestling. I mean, there's one obvious story that I think everybody would lean to immediately, and that, of course, is the Vince McMahon stuff going on. But I want to shy away from that because we'll be talking about that still for years to come. But everybody likes to do a year in review show. I'm not going to ask you for that particularly, but what I'm wondering is, over the last year in 2024, what for you were maybe some favorite moments or favorite stories to tell and that stand out in your mind? Maybe, like for me, for example, the Leo Burke thing is going to be something that stays with me for the rest of my life because it was just, like you, as an opportunity to tell somebody else's story and not make it about my experiences, but just share what people knew about this great guy. So for you, what would you say would be some of your favorite things to have talked about in the last 12 months?
There's a weird thing that happens with the obituaries that I write, and they're hard to do, obviously, and they can be painful and they can be personal, right? In the case of Roger Baker, who was a great friend and a photographer and shot all kinds of stuff, Maple Leaf Gardens, and I got to know his wife through the years, all those things. But then you go to the funeral and everybody says thank you for the story, which is it's not what you aimed for. It's a small benefit we get out of doing this. But the one I'd forgotten about completely was when Sonny King died. And Sonny King, for those who don't know, was a big star in the late 60s and then into the 70s. And he was a WWF World Tag Team Champion with Chief Jay Strongbow. He was actually the first black champion, there in the WWF. But nobody, of course, ever mentions him. It always goes to Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson. But it was really Sonny King. But what I'd completely forgotten, and I only remembered it when I opened up I have a file of him, obviously, was that I'd helped him connect with a son he'd never met. And I'd completely forgotten that. And so revisiting that story, because that son had gone on to meet his dad, have a relationship and all that kind of stuff. So instead of writing just the life story of Sonny King, I decided to do it on a personal basis, saying this is sometimes what happens with our stories. And he only found out about Sonny King through his mom when mom saw the story that I'd written about Sonny King, because Sonny King did almost no interview, but he was at a Cauliflower Alley Club one day, and I just sat down beside him and put on the recorder and say, tell me about all this. And so to know you made a little bit of a difference in somebody's life is pretty wonderful. And I got a nice note back from him afterwards from the son. So those kind of things stand out in a way that, writing about whatever you're watching A&E biography, right? I watched a lot of those this year and covered them. And, for everyone that was really not very good, there were others that were really good, but you also know they left out this, and this. And that's because I know too much and it's not aimed at me.
Right.
Whereas something like the Sonny King thing, I know I made a big difference with Sputnik and Monroe, I know I kept connected him with a kid like eons ago. And then there's also the other people that never did connect with kids. I mean, Rocky Johnson, I'd asked him about his kids at one point. You know, the other ones that I knew, a couple of the other ones I knew about, and he just shot me down. So that one stands out. I know that's maybe not the answer you were looking for, but that's certainly the one when I look back at 2024, that one jumps out at me.
There's no right answer to this, and that was the perfect answer. I mean, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. I never knew my dad, and I can only imagine what that kid felt having that moment. And so, you know, you say you helped somebody's life a little bit. I think you're underselling your contribution here just by connecting these two people, because that's a massive thing. So good on you, Greg, for that. That's pretty incredible.
Thank you. Man. Yeah, you got to leave it in the hands of the wrestler, though, right? The guy you know. It's like up to them to connect, and not all of them do. And
before we let you go, we're talking to Greg Oliver here on the McGuire on Wrestling Holiday Hullabaloo. So many great names still to come, so thank you for joining us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do, because you'll get part 2 of the Hullabaloo in your feed just like that. But Greg, before we let you go, is there anything you wanted to say to maybe, you know, the readers of Slam or people that have bought your books throughout the years this holiday season?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate everything that people have done for me through the years and bought the books and supported Slam Wrestling. It is getting a little bit harder to be noticed in a way, because there's so many more people that are out there writing about wrestling, and they have no concept of all the stuff we've been through and done to, you know, make this all possible, right? I mean, I still love telling the story. WrestleMania 2000, the WWF didn't bother to pay to turn on the Wi-Fi in the arena. So this is Anaheim Pond. And so I had to write my story that was filing to the national, you know, the Sun Media chain across Canada. I had to write it on my laptop, put it on a floppy disk. I walked across the floor of the Anaheim Pond with the PR guy from WWF. We went to the offices of the pond where somebody had to boot up their computer and you know, we put the floppy disk in and sent it to the Sun chain. Like that, people don't understand like how much I had to bitch about that afterwards. You know, so things changed a little bit because of me, not just because of me, but you know, you gotta wake these people up and move them into the next century sometimes.
And to younger listeners out there, you can Google what a floppy disk is when you're done listening to this.
There is that. Yeah, no, it's crazy now. Even just my son, like I said, came home from university and he's explaining to us how they use Bluetooth and payments to do their laundry. And it's like, what, you don't have a pocket full of change anymore? Like,
oh, yeah, you throw your phone up against the machine now and it goes. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a wonderful world out there. But yeah, no, Slam's been great to me. I have so many great writers that have written for me through the years, a lot of guest columnists. We've certainly had so many great readers, and that they've all blossomed into other books is amazing. We do have some surprises coming up in the new year that I can't quite reveal yet, but there's some good stuff coming. Even just, I mean, if you'd asked me at the beginning of January that we'd have Jeremiah Plunkett from the NWA writing a great column every week, that I swear to you, I make no more than 3 or 4 edits in. Like, the guy is way talented as far as a writer goes, because when I used to get Hotshot Johnny Devine stuff, let me tell you, that it took some editing. So when I love Johnny, but yeah, it took a little bit of work to make it presentable. It's not like that at all with Plunky. So, and again, those are the great things about the site. You get to share other people's stories.
And I can count myself on that list. You did help me piece together a story that I did on welcoming Raj Desi back home to Calgary that is on Slam Wrestling, and you can check out now with the interview from this show a while back. But the great Greg Oliver, and I don't say that to be facetious, sir. I really do respect everything you do. Thank you for your friendship and guidance in helping me do what I do as well. And I just think that you're just a force in our country for pro wrestling. And I think you're one of the best out there to talk about it. And you're also, to quote somebody that you and I have different relationships with, I think you're a jam-up guy. So
I won't call myself the great Greg Oliver, because I might get in trouble with the great Brian
Last.
And I like him and corny, so I want to stay on the good side.
Coming up next on the McGuire on Wrestling Holiday Hullabaloo, it is your co-main event. Yes, they are husband and wife, but they are also some of the most interesting people, and things are really, really going well for them. Ladies and gentlemen, stand by for the one and only WWE Smackdown General Manager Nick Aldis, as well as his wife and the incomparable, undoubtedly future WWE Hall of Famer and star of the upcoming WWE LFG, Mickie James, together surprising one of our podcasters as well on the McGuire on Wrestling Holiday Hullabaloo 2. Thanks for being here.
You're listening to the McGuire on Wrestling Holiday Hullabaloo 2. Join us on Facebook at Team MOW McGuire on Wrestling and get in on the conversation. If you like McGuire on Wrestling, you need to subscribe to the free McGuire on Wrestling podcast feed. Not only do you get access to the show a day early, but you also get free bonus content every week. Share a laugh with Mitch and Dimitri on the alternate commentary table.
Oh, I'm Cody Rhodes. Look at me.
Now, if this was Damian Priest, he'd apologize.
He probably would have apologized.
Follow along with the film career of one of wrestling's biggest stars with We've Seen a Movie.
Basically, I'm just watching John Cena play his wrestling character.
If John Cena was a raging alcoholic Atlantic City mooch before this.
Get all these shows, exclusive interviews, and more for free by subscribing to McGuire on Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to the McGuire on Wrestling Holiday Hullabaloo 2.
Very honored to have our main event guest joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Last time he was on this show, he was a competitor for Dungeon Wrestling out of Calgary, Alberta. He was, in fact, the Stu Hart Heritage Heavyweight Champion at one time. And now you can see him every Friday as the general manager of WWE Smackdown, the one and only. Do we still use the cream of the Commonwealth? Can we do that here?
I think so. I think that also you'd be remiss if you didn't mention undefeated Stu Hart Heritage Champion.
This is true. Never lost the belt.
But I'm sure that was just an oversight on your part, Mike.
Well, absolutely. That is the very familiar voice of Nick Aldis, but not alone there. Ladies and gentlemen, also joining us, the lovely, the amazing, and the legend and future great judge we found out as well, the one and only Mickie James. Hello, Mickie.
Good morning. How you doing?
Thank you.
Happy holidays from the Aldis household here.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm packing, but
that's
also,
fine. That's fine. Yeah. What is this hat that you're wearing? Describe it for the listeners.
It is a gingerbread woolly hat. Babe, do you love it?
I do love it. Yeah. It's a little bit Elmer Fudd-ish.
Well,
you just need the ear flaps, just the ear flaps on the side.
Okay.
There's like a cartoon blunderbuss to accompany the look.
I thought it was quite festive.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Is this typical fashion discussions between the Aldises?
Yeah, she actually was just. Usually, it's when at the moment she's leaving on a Tuesday to go down to Orlando to shoot LFG, and so very often at the very last minute, because she does tend to do everything last minute, it's, hey, what do you think of this outfit? Should I wear this or this? And then I'm suddenly sort of put under the gun with this immediate sort of decisions that I have to weigh in on in very quick fashion, because we're usually about 2 hours away from when the car service is here to take her to the airport.
I don't know, Nick. Mickey's kind of.
What about this? What about this outfit? What about this
still
one?
reeling over this.
These boots or these boots? I don't like the pressure.
Mickie, do you trust Nick's fashion sense that much? Because, I mean, from a suit standpoint, he's got his game on. But for you, I mean, that's a totally different story.
Yeah. I mean, I've pretty much narrowed it down by the time I go to him. So it's an A or B kind of,
Yes, I can be trusted with a sort of 50-50 choice.
I think he has great fashion sense. We've seen the suit game.
Much like the American electorate, I'm given the trust of choosing between one of two flavors.
Well,
and
you know what?
Is the extent of the political discussion we will have on this show, Mike.
Thank you very much. I think everybody appreciates that.
Before you start sweating.
I'm in Canada. We don't care.
You've got your own problems.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. But nevertheless, I mean, you just alluded to it there, and Mickie, of course, we know you've been very, very busy. We didn't know until just recently that it was for this new WWE series. But Nick, obviously, you're also busy with your work with WWE. I mean, what is the holiday season like for you two, trying to plan things for the family and at the same time stay committed to everything you got to do?
It's we do have quite a hectic schedule at the moment, just in terms of our own, time together. Obviously, WWE are well aware of my commitments, both in front and behind the camera with WWE and with Smackdown. So not to say that it played into, their discussions with Mickie at all in that regard, but the scheduling, I think, is sort of designed to work around the existing WWE programming. So, like I said, she's out the door on a Tuesday, working Wednesday, back on a Thursday, and I'm out the door Thursday, working Friday, and then typically back on a Saturday. But sometimes, obviously if we have PLEs or other live events, or like Saturday night's main event coming up and things like that, then I can be gone too. So, we have a sort of limited downtime together at the moment, but the most important thing is that one of us is always home with our son. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the time, look, we've both been in this business for 20 years going on, or I'm coming up on 20, and we've worked around every type of schedule possibility that there is. So we've always been able to sort of prioritize sort of maximizing our time together, and sometimes it takes a bit of planning, like making sure that we don't just try to think of fun stuff to do at the last minute. A lot of the time it's like, hey, there's this thing, like, okay, let's make a plan to like go and do that, right? Like, as opposed to, because if you try to leave everything just to happenstance or trying to be spontaneous, that's not always easy when you only have sort of 2 days to work with out of the week. But it's a first world problem. We're very blessed, and we love our work.
We haven't started Christmas shopping. We just
speak for yourself.
We just got the tree up the other day. 2 days ago.
Yeah, the tree and the decorations was a bit of a saga. It was done in phases. It was like, right, well, I've got the Christmas decorations down from the attic. Yeah. Okay, well, in a couple of days we will start phase 2 of the project.
Mickie, are you guys a real tree, an artificial tree household? What do you do?
We do an artificial tree. And I love the smell of a real tree, but we travel so much that I would feel, you know what I mean? It's just, they dry out if you don't water them, and they're just a lot of maintenance. Not that my fake tree at this point doesn't shed as many little thistles, whatever, down.
Well, we also have animals, and
the cat likes to get in it. We have a puppy now.
Yeah. The
lights, it's a pre-lit tree. It was a very nice, expensive, beautiful pre-lit tree, and now none of the pre-lights work, so we have to I spent last year trying to fix some of the lights, and I thought I got it fixed, and then I went to plug it in, and one strand of light, it's like the Griswolds, babe. One strand was working.
It's never a dull moment.
Damn it. So we just strung it with some other lights instead, so it's gorgeous. We'll send you a picture.
It sounds great to me.
Yeah, and Dee put all the ornaments for the most part on it, and then put his trains around the bottom. So, you started Christmas shopping already?
I may have done 1 or 2 little things. Yeah,
so proud of you.
Yeah.
Anything for Mickie, or was it just for?
No comment.
How is that? I mean, you guys are both on the road, and how are you both for Christmas shopping? Do you find it easier to buy for the other person in your house, or are you like, you know what, it's also my festive time of the year too? Or are you finding yourself maybe in a bit of a trap of coming home with a couple extra things for yourself as well?
Oh, you can take that one.
I always come home with extra things for myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the holiday, the event, the shopping excursion. If I'm going shopping, there's a present for me.
Mickey's rule is 1 for thee, 2 for me.
No.
Was that hat part? Was that hat part of that though, Mickie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
This was. I actually got this for Donovan's play last year, I think. So I got it for that, but he only wore it once, and I've worn it several times.
I love it. It's the full gingerbread's got a bow on the head. Okay. Nick, you know about this. Mickie, to give you an idea here, when Nick and I were working together in Dungeon Wrestling, I mean, by that, like very far away from each other. But when we were there, a friend of mine was one of our co-commentators. His name is Mitch. He's a Salt of the Earth guy. He hosts another show on our station, on our network here as well. They just had a brand new baby boy as well. And he was the heel commentator at the time that Nick was our heel champion. And ever since then, what was it, like 2 shows? He still to this day refers to Nick as his best friend. So I'm sending Mitch.
My great friend, a dear friend.
Exactly. So I'm sending Mitch the Zoom link right now. Nick, I'm going to get you to hide the camera for a second. Just turn the camera off. And he should be hopping in any second here. Joining us now, he is one half of the alternate commentary table. He is also one of my co-commentators for Dungeon Wrestling. Mitch Honsius is on the show. How are you, Mitch?
I'm great, Mike. How are you? Thanks for having me. This is
Good.
fantastic. And no Dimitri, this is better. This is Christmas early, buddy. Thank you.
It is. That's why we do the holiday hullabaloo. But I hope you don't mind. I did get somebody else to join us for this segment, Mitch. So if you wouldn't mind, special guest joining us, ladies and gentlemen, he is the national treasure. He is the cream of the Commonwealth, the general manager of WWE SmackDown, also standing next to who I believe will be future WWE Hall of Famer and one of the greatest women's champions of all times. It is Nick, Aldis, and Mickie James.
Mike, wow. You forgot Mitch's close personal friend.
That's right. I'm literally in awe right now. Mike, I told you I'll comb my hair. I didn't know this was happening. I feel horrible.
You don't have to worry about anything, Mitch. Just your presence is enough, my friend. How have you been? It's great to see you. Great to hear your voice.
I am well, sir. Thank you very much. Congratulations on all your success and a beautiful wife as well. Congratulations to you guys. This is, I'm beyond. This is better than Christmas. I just had a kid last week. This is better than the kid.
Congratulations are in order for you too. I understand that you just became a father for the second time. That's wonderful news.
Thank you, sir. This is better than that. This is way better than that. This is fantastic.
Wow. That's big. That's big.
Big.
Now, Mike, I think you were a little understated when you were describing my incredible run as Stu Hart Heritage Champion, and the part that we really needed Mitch here to corroborate was the fact that what I thought it was in particular was not just a triumph, over physical adversity, but a triumph over blatant. Political pressure from a biased office. And there was one lone voice in the entire organization of Dungeon Wrestling. There was one lone voice who stood up against the establishment power, trying to hold down Nick Aldis and the greatest undefeated Stu Hart Heritage Champion of all time. And that man was Mitch. And I think that he needs to be acknowledged and recognized for that effort.
Well, sir, first off, it's very easy for me to back you up, let's say, when you are the national treasure, the cream of the crop. Not a problem at all. I totally agree. The guys over at Dungeon, they don't appreciate, they don't see what I see when it's greatness. When that belt was around your waist, sir, I mean, the fans, you saw it yourself. They didn't know what to say, just kind of like myself, a little speechless already.
I mean, the Victoria Pavilion was full to the brim. That's all I remember. And I think that while the Dungeon Wrestling is a tremendous organization, I think that, let's be honest, Nick Aldis' historic reign as Stu Hart Heritage Champion was the main contributing factor to breathing new life into Calgary wrestling, which is, let's face it, an historic achievement, if ever there was one.
Mickie, if I can interrupt here for a second, when you come home with a belt, are you like this too, or...
I feel like I'm a very gracious champion, humble, thankful.
Well, you can feel that all you want, but the truth is you're a difference maker. You understand. You understand what it's like.
Brass ring grabber.
Brass ring grabber, difference maker.
Yeah, I like to wear those brass rings as necklaces, just hang charms.
Well, you've had so many of them. I mean, why wouldn't you?
So I would, but it hurts my neck.
That's true.
Well, Mitch, I know that. Ever since that time in Dungeon Wrestling, you have been a vehement supporter of Mr. Aldis. So we all really have been, again, just seeing you in WWE and doing what you do. Mitch, do you have anything else you'd like to ask the Aldises while you're here?
Well, since I have you here, how has everything been? I mean, if I may say, I used to be a Raw guy. Now I don't even know what Raw is anymore. I'm a SmackDown guy all the way through. How's it been? How's it going over there? Can you give the people maybe a little bit of insight? Like, what's it like being the commish of the better side of WWE?
I mean, the blue brand, the number one brand in all of sports entertainment and WWE and professional wrestling, SmackDown. It's been a tremendous ride, and I feel like we're really just scratching the surface. Truthfully, it's a tremendous honor. When it was presented to me, it was it happened fairly quickly. It was sort of there was sort of some dancing around it from Bruce Pritchard and Paul Levesque about like, hey, how do you feel about this, a role, something like this. It was sort of, they were a little, close to the vest. And then it happened all quite quickly. It was like, hey, we want you to be the general manager of SmackDown. And I said, okay, where do I sign? I made a commitment to myself at that time. I'll be the best general manager you've ever seen. It's all I can do. I'll try to put my own stamp on it, reinvent the role, redefine the role. And I feel like, anything like this, particularly when it comes to WWE, to get any TV time at WWE is a tremendous privilege. But especially at this time, this key time that we're at in WWE, I mean, setting records, then breaking our own records, moving into this new phase with Netflix on the horizon. There's no ceiling for that WWE, and obviously all of us who are part of it and whose brands get to sort of share some of that energy, we all grow as a result. And now with Mickie, being back in the fold, being back in the family with LFG, and I'm sure that that's not going to be the last thing that she's involved with the company, going forward. We're just very, very blessed and very grateful to be part of this new renaissance of WWE.
Mitch, we only got a little bit of time, so I'm going to give you one more, and then I have a closer for the Aldises. But again, Nick and Mickie, thank you so much for making the time for us here during the holiday season. This really is the best main event we could ask for the holiday special this year. But Mitch, I'll let you go ahead here one more time.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Mickie, this one's going to go out to you, actually. I've always been a big fan of yours. Thoughts on the women's division in all of pro wrestling right now? I'll be quite honest. I'm seeing a lot of great talent. However, I also see, listen, if you listen to Mike's podcast last week, I was a little tough on the women's Survivor Series first match. I was a little rough on the ladies. I wasn't super excited about everything that was going on in that match. But where do you see women's wrestling going forward?
Oh, man, I feel like it's stronger than ever to have all of these different platforms, and every, division has been killing it. And I feel like, too, this whole crossover with TNA and NXT with the women specifically, but with talent crossing over, it's like these cool different scenarios that you wouldn't have expected before. I'm still excited and happy and honored to be involved in women's wrestling here now, 20 some plus years later. And even within the show, and you guys will see, there's like this whole crop of up and coming talent that are superstars in the making, or at least, I hope. It's crazy to see, not just, we talk about equality and all of these things of not just like the match time, but pay and just treatment and all of those things. And that's not just a word we throw around anymore. Like, that's an actual reality. And if, you would have told little Alexis Lurie that, hey, you could main event WrestleMania one day as a woman, I would have laughed. I would have been like, you're crazy. You're just grateful to have an opportunity and a spot. And now that is a reality for a lot of aspiring female talent out there. We're not always going to love storylines. We're not always, as fans or even as talent, you know what I mean? I think that if I was to shed any advice to females out there is, I always think that you have to take every opportunity you're given, whether you love it or hate it, and make it gold and make it the absolute best that you can make it on every level. And that's not just like wrestling, but like your emotion and your heart, so.
And play to your strength.
Yeah.
It's but like to Mickey's point, there is no, there's no sort of identity politics going into this, going into these decisions now, right? Talent is talent.
Mm-hmm.
There happens to be a huge number of unbelievably talented and over women who sell merchandise and sell tickets. Like, we have those numbers, that they are demonstrably. There's no sort of, oh, well, that's the best woman. It's kind of like, no, the top talent is the top talent, and which gender they happen to be is sort of a second point. But the other thing, and Mickie's, I think she's never going to say it, so I can say it. But like, I think that Mickie was really the first wave of the sort of female character and performer that now is the norm in WWE, which was a talented performer who happened to be a woman rather than a beautiful woman who, actually, she's also not half bad at wrestling. Like it was kind of the fact that she was a beautiful woman and had sex appeal and all those things. That was sort of secondary to her talent and charisma because she loves the business. She came up in the business. She was broke in the business the correct way, in the old school way. And now what you're seeing, I believe, is a whole crop of talent. And like I've heard Bret Hart mention this before. Bret, obviously beloved on this show, my hero. Everybody knows that. But like Bret's made this point a lot where he says, if you look at a lot of wrestlers today, they wrestle like Bret Hart, right? They don't, and that's not a knock on Hulk Hogan or anyone else who drew unbelievable money and was an incredibly important to the growth of our industry. But the next wave of guys, they wrestled like Bret. And I think if you look at Mickie in her first WWE run, the women that we have today, they wrestle like Mickie, right? And they wrestle like, like Amy, and they wrestle like Gail Kim, and they wrestle like Molly Holly, and you know what I mean? And it's like, it's no accident that Molly is a producer with WWE behind the scenes today, working with the women and doing all kinds of contributions behind the scenes, because it's like talent is talent. And I think that when it's all said and done and you look back, like the real sort of trailblazers, and I know that's a term that gets sort of thrown around a little bit too cavalierly, but it's like, it was the women who just said, no, we're just talented. Like, we're just great performers. And like, once our sort of our femininity is not our sort of primary character trait, like the sky's the limit in terms of what we can do in terms of delivering for this business. And I think it's evident today because we've got an unbelievably stacked roster. I mean, to get TV time in WWE today is a very difficult thing to do because you're competing with dozens and dozens of giant stars who move numbers in a massive way. And that's male and female.
Well, I think too, if I just add to that, was like the difference is too, I feel before a female, your career span was 5-7 years. To be able to have so many female legends now, because most of them didn't stick around, after TV or whatever. Now you have all of these women who are incredibly talented, who learn through the ropes, who are still involved to help guide the younger generation. You talk about like Trish and Lita have come back so many times, but Jazz is a trainer, to have all of these females, Medusa, all these females, Lisa Marie, Victoria, all these women, Gail Kim, the head of the Knockouts, like I could just keep going, right? Serena's over at AEW, who is one of the greatest female wrestlers I've ever known and been in the ring with. Just, you have all of these strong, powerful, knowledgeable women who have made this their craft, who took these assets that they had and said, this is what brought me to the dance, but now I'm going to prove myself that we are more than just this, to now have all of these, like, now that barrier's gone, and yeah, it's really cool to see that, because that longevity in the business, and to see those women to be able to give back and help this younger generation of talent to like really step into their own and be them out there and own everything that they are, and still be different and powerful and unique and all those things. So it's cool time. It's cool time in wrestling. Yeah.
It's definitely a very optimistic time to be a wrestling fan, and to be a fan of both of you, and Nick to get to know you a little bit, and Mickie to get to work with you over the years, and just see that you're both doing so well and so strong. And don't forget for a second, or don't think that we thought or forgot for a second, Nick, when Cody mentioned on an episode of Smackdown that you are a wrestler, that we're not expecting things in the future. But you know what? Whatever happens for both of you, again, thank you just for being yourselves. Thank you for being real and being as committed to giving us wrestling fans the best that you can give us every time you're out there. And we really do appreciate it on behalf of everybody listening and being a part of this show. Thank you, because
understand where you were coming from.
He closed strong. Let's say that we appreciate you, Mike, and in all seriousness, I've always had a great affinity for Canadian wrestling fans, and like I said, I look back at my time with Dungeon Wrestling incredibly fondly. I always looked forward to it. I loved going to the Victoria Pavilion. It's honestly one of my favorite venues I ever performed in, and who knows? Maybe one day I can grace it again.
We would love to see you. And I know Mitch will have a room open in his house for you if you want to come stay or something.
Red carpet, restaurants already selected for you. Bring Mickey. I got it all taken care of. You let me know. When the cream comes, the cream comes. I'm here. Whatever you need.
Yeah.
That's a choice of words, but we'll go with it.
The Aldises, Nick and Mickie, thank you so much for being a part of the Holiday Hullabaloo. All the best this holiday season, and cannot wait to see what comes for you in 2025.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Mitch, last chance to gush. Last chance, Mitch.
I just took a couple of screenshots. I had no chance. I got to show everybody. This is crazy.
Well, the true holiday miracle happens now as we are about to wrap up the Holiday Hullabaloo. And joining us from the entire Team MOW, it is Joe Aguinaldo. It is Dimitri Karolis. It is Mitch Honzius. And yes, in the UK, Andy Evans. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Daddy.
Right. Sorry, I've got to ask, where did this come from? I've been listening to ACT now for a while. Where did this come from?
It came from an episode where we were talking about Rhea Ripley and referencing her as mommy. And we said, well, Mike McGuire's got to be daddy. It's actually, man, I think that was your call, Mitch.
Might have been. I still stick to the idea. Whatever idea I come up with or you come up with, it's our idea. So the way I look at it, it's been working great.
That's right. But that's where it comes from. Yeah,
that's amazing. The true teamwork of the ACT right there. But yes, it's a nickname I've begrudgingly accepted. Nevertheless, here we are, guys. A year in the books for the podcast feed. I do have a little bit of news coming up, but before we get to that, how's everybody's year been? Let's start with Dimitri. We'll start with you, man.
Yeah, the year's been good. Anyone that I talk to personally or professionally, it seems like it's just a crazy busy year for everybody. It's almost like head down. Everyone's just go, go, go. But it's been a good year. It's been a positive year. I think a lot of things have happened, in the right direction. And just to hone it in on Team MOW, it's pretty cool from an idea to, like a staff hullabaloo party, whatever you want to call it. This is super exciting stuff. So, yeah, great year. Can't complain.
We're probably a lot more sober than a lot of these podcast holiday specials go, mostly because as we're recording this, to get Andy on, the rest of us have to be basically in the middle of the workday to make this happen. So, Andy, we blame our sobriety on you, or thank you for it, either or. But
speak for yourself.
Well, and aren't you driving right now, Mitch?
Anyways, that's none of your business, Mike. That's not.
Well, let's talk about you. Speaking of the real daddy here, daddy 2 times over now in Mitch Honzius. How's the year been for you?
The year's been unreal. Really, really proud of this team and proud of the entire MOW community. It's been fun. Like when you put that Facebook page together, Mike, I didn't realize how many people were involved and how many people want to love talking about wrestling, and it's fun, man. And it's starting to really gauge. Like I'm noticing your guys' gay boo threads are becoming busier. Like more people want to say their piece. Overall, it's been fantastic, and congratulations to yourself, to everyone on the team. I think it's been a fun year so far, and it's going to only get better. I think 2025 is the opening of the door. The forbidden door has been opened. Right?
Oh yeah, that's still a thing, isn't it? All right. There's just so many show names now. All right. Sporting his Malacca 316 shirt, the honorary GW Joe Aguinaldo. Let's take it to you, pal. I mean, it's been crazy. You and I have been friends for years and seen each other through a lot of ups and downs in the media realm. But as for you, man, I know you've got university students graduating in your life and things have been going on. But just tell us about you, man.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Dimitri said. It's just been a really busy year. Personally and professionally, like you mentioned, I had a kid graduate from college. I've got another kid, going into trade school next year. So lots of stuff going on in life. And, from the Team MOW perspective, I'm just enjoying listening to y'all podcast. You guys are really entertaining. And it's fun to be part of this team.
See, I think you said entertaining, but it came through sounding like irritating, which I think might be an accurate word for all our shows. And I'm going to coin that phrase right now. We are the most irritating podcast you can get in the wrestling realm.
That's awesome.
And then we go over to Mr. Andy Evans. Andy, bringing you on board full swing here and having you back with the Legends and Champions show here. Just tell us about what life's been like for you and how you doing.
A bit like everybody, it's been manically busy, professionally and personally. And, my 6-year-old is started stage school and we've done her shows and seen that happen. And then, I'm starting stage school next year as well, which will be intriguing. But Team MOWI's being back with Legends full time and actually releasing more than 4 shows has been tremendous. And it's great to kind of be out doing the show and to listen to Mitch and Dimitri on the ACT every week, even though you got your wish and the Blackpool Combat Club no longer exists. And of course, Joe with the worst promo in the world intro for my show was absolutely brilliant. And I just want to turn around and say, Joe, you, my friend, are a fully fledged podcaster, right? I mean, the Yay Boo segments with Mike and what you do with ACT and I'm a Seen a Movie, they're some of the best things to listen to. So it's a pleasure being here with all of you guys. And of course, to steal it, Daddy Mike as well.
Appreciate that.
Like I said, I appreciate all of you doing this. And again, we started this with a mantra of we're doing it for sport. We're doing it because we love talking about wrestling, and having you all along for some of the fun stuff has been great. And looking forward to trying to make this thing a little bigger and better as we go on. And that's the thing, right? There's no real pressure, but it's nice to see people coming along for the ride and seeing the downloads consistently be there. And with the addition of having some radio stations on board and supporting us that way, it's kind of neat here in Canada. But then I know there's people listening all around the world, and everybody's involved in that. Even though, most of us here are Canadians. I mean, Joe, you're on the other side of the country. So, I mean, that's really a different representation there. I know we have people that listen in the States. Andy, having you in the UK is obviously a big thing. But the one thing about this is that no matter where you're listening, no matter where you're from, we're always talking about the same thing. And that, to me, is what talking about pro wrestling in a podcast medium should be about, is finding that one common thread. And I'm not saying that being wrestling fans can cause world peace or anything like that, but, at the same time, it's nice to not talk about some of the more serious things in the world sometimes. Now, that said, it's been a very interesting year round here. I want to get your guys' thoughts on what for you was the biggest moment, and we talked to Greg Oliver about this earlier. What to you was maybe not even the biggest moment, but the most standout moment to you of the year? Because it'd be easy to chase the biggest news story, and that's everything. But what for you was a favorite moment of the year that stood out in 2024? And Andy, we ended with you, so we'll start with you on this one.
Oh, great. Yeah, give me some chance to think about it. I think there's been so many. The obvious one that you want to stay away from, so won't go there. The love of Cody Rhodes and how good he is and finishing the journey is definitely one of them. But I've actually got to go back to Wembley Stadium. And even though, they've had a bit of a rough year, All Elite, they've been all exceedingly crap over for most of 2024. All
easy
in
now,
in
easy now. They're trying.
They are trying.
Let Andy talk. Let Andy talk. Keep going, Andy.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. I got to go back to Wembley, All In. It was a really bad build, but to see Bryan Danielson walk out as the AEW World Champion in Wembley with 85,000 people, or if you listen to Tony Khan, 462,625,402 members of the paid gate, was brilliant. And it's a moment, even though I watched it on pay-per-view, it was a moment that, you can sit there and go, the crowd was there, the reactions were there, and it was British wrestling, British fans showing what we can do and putting North America and Canada to shame. There you go. I've put it out there.
Oh, congratulations. You have like 30 times the population. You're saying we didn't show up. All right, fair enough. We go from that. I'm going to go back to Mitch now because Mitch wanted to let Andy speak there, but he did speak about the love of Cody Rhodes there. Mitch, how about you? The biggest moment of the year for you? What stood out as your maybe a favorite for you?
I got to be honest. I know this is going to sound weird. The Cody Rhodes thing, I'll give the WWE some props for pivoting the way they did. I mean, we all know it should have been, The Rock versus Roman Reigns. They changed it. They made it work. They gave the guy the title, blah, blah, blah. I hate to say I'm right when I'm right, but I'm right. It never worked in the first place. So it's kind of nice to see that portion of it, fruition. But overall, this is where I'm going to go with it. I'm really liking where all wrestling's headed. Like, when is the last time, years ago, 20, 25 years ago, we had WCW and WWE, and everything else was basically very low key, nothing. All of a sudden, you've got your TNA, your ROH, your New Japan Wrestling, WWE, and of course AEW, all making a little bit of a headway noise. So I think what I'm really going to say is and now with Netflix, I was just saying right before we started, that promo they did yesterday, where WWE is pushing the Netflix show. I mean, WWE is now going on Netflix. This is huge. Wrestling, where we were all made fun of, let's call it what it is. Maybe it's sometime in our lives for being wrestling fans. It's cool to be a wrestling fan again. So I'm pumped about that.
As this show is actually posting right around that time, I can't wait for the January 6th Netflix to happen. But boy, am I really looking forward to the January 13th Raw. What's going to happen on that one? Let's go to Joe Aguinaldo. What are your thoughts of the year? What was the standout moment for you?
Mitch said it, like the wrestling business is in a good place. Like, whether you're an AEW fan, for example, or WWE or MLW, whatever you're rooting for, it's all good. But if I have to, I'm going to pick a personal one here. As someone who was a huge Sting fan back in the day, for me, the way Sting went out, his retirement match against the Young Bucks with Darby Allin, that was awesome. So that was a huge highlight for me.
Yeah, what a moment, what a match. And, it's funny, guys, I don't know about any of you, but that almost feels like 100 years ago now, just with how much has gone on in wrestling, even since that match with, I remember all we could talk about was Darby going through the glass. And again, it just feels so long ago, but Sting still contributing to AEW. He was there for the ticket launch of All In Texas, and I'm sure we'll see him pop up here and there again as that event gets closer. But yeah, talk about the end of an era there with Stinger hanging it up. Dimitri, you're last on the roll call for this one here, but a favorite moment for you over the last 2024.
Yeah, the risk of being last is that everyone takes your idea, so I'll briefly echo it. But I just want to say it's R-Truth, Cody Rhodes, LA Knight single-handedly saved the wrestling business. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna say too. I think I will blanket WrestleMania to say that was the single most pivotal moment from the general fan where we are today and everything moving forward, because that whole build-up and vibe and attention that everything got, I say all wrestling businesses culminated there. But I'll go not so much on the controversial side. I think in conjunction with that is just, if I say Vince McMahon from the standpoint is this year we got the definitive moving forward and trajectory of the wrestling business. And this year will mark this year's a year in the calendar of that. Everything has changed. And I think the fan has accepted that. So I'm really excited because now we're just talking about it in a very different light. Whether it's different promotions and so on and so forth. So that's I'll go with that for being different today.
Again, we're trying to stay away from the controversy only for the fact that it's been talked about to death, and we want to kind of move forward a little bit here now, not to negate the issues that are still going on there, but this is something we're going to discover in the new year, I think, and we'll find out what exactly happens moving forward with that. I mean, there's so much around that now that could change everything no matter what happens, but it'll be an interesting time to see how that chapter in wrestling fully closes with what Vince McMahon's future looks like. But again, he's not a part of it anymore.
Exactly. And that's, sorry to cut you off, Mike, but that's just say, like, when Triple H does the then, now, and forever at the beginning of every show, it gives me chills because I believe it.
Well, if I can be selfish here and close this part with talking about my moment of the year, and we talked about it with him earlier on the show. In fact, first interview segment of the show. And surprise, surprise, Mike's going to pick the only Bret Hart moment you can bring up here, but it's the one. We were there for it. Mitch, Dimitri, myself, seeing Bret come out at Monday Night Raw, and I asked him about it. I said, there was that moment you crossed through the ropes. The Hitman was back. We saw that little, to compare to anything would be a gleam in his eye, the energy that he had in the ring there, and to be a part of it. I thought it was kind of a personal highlight for me. And again, so many other great moments here. It's going to sound like I'm shilling here, but I'm not. But I don't think we can take away the gravity of AEW landing the TV deal that they did as being a solid footing for pro wrestlers, as having a viable economic option to go work for now, because the company is going to be making money, which is fantastic to hear. Again, does the product need help? Sure. Do the shows need help and to do things to attract fans back in? Absolutely, but at least they're running in a net positive here moving forward, so I think that's great for them. And yeah, this new WWE is something I never thought I'd see in my life. I never thought I'd see it become as big as it has. Also as expensive as it has become. But, if I miss anything about Vince, maybe it's his theory towards ticket pricing, and that's about it. But
yeah, I was actually looking at tickets for Elimination Chamber, and I was like, I'm going to wait till a little closer to the event to see if they drop, because they're a little pricey right now.
Yeah, and you got tuitions and everything else to worry about over there. So,
and we're talking 500 level. I'm not talking close to the ring. The 500 level tickets are expensive.
Man, and those are the ones that literally touch the sky in the sky.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
highest,
much. Yeah.
That's the seats that are so high they have the guardrails in front of them, so you don't flop over and die. Right? So. Well, you know what? I want to go just around the table here one more time before we move forward and bring a full close to the Holiday Hullabaloo here. But before I do that, I just want to take a moment again to thank all of you personally, Joe, Mitch, Andy, Dimitri, for contributing the way you guys do. You guys always come up with fun and interesting things to talk about. Mitch and Dimitri often make me panic enough to worry about whether or not we're going to get kicked off the clean feed of Apple Podcasts, but that's another story for another day. But Mitch, I know that you've got some things you got to tend to here, but I want to leave this kind of as an open floor for you guys. And if you guys want to chat among yourselves as well here, don't feel restricted to just answering questions by me right now. But Mitch, I want to just give you the floor here, and anything you want to say to anybody listening. You know what?
I really appreciate everything you've done where you kind of let me and Dimitri be ourselves and be something a little different. I'm a little bit of a sucker when it comes to listening to other podcasts, just to see what's out there and other wrestling kind of shows like everyone that's trying to emulate each other. Right. And ours is vastly different. And I appreciate that you're letting us have a little fun and doing what we do. And I got to admit, all our shows, I think, are a little bit different and bring a little bit of, just fun news, but more importantly, it's real. And that's the only thing Dimitri and I think can say. And we appreciate you letting us be ourselves and do our thing rather than, if you ever come to me and say, Dimitri or Mitch, pardon me, you have to be nice and you got to talk about Cody Rhodes in a positive manner, I'll quit the pod. I'll quit the pod right here, right there, because I can't do it. I will one day maybe like him if he turns heel or something else happens, but I appreciate you guys letting me be myself and Dimitri the same, because, I think that's what makes our pod fun to do. So that's where I'll leave it. So thank you very much for everything and you guys' support. And the GWO rocks forever. That's it.
Mike, I will make one request about the ACT. I would one day like you to allow them to be unfiltered. Just one time.
Oh, no.
One time. I would love to hear that.
I second that. I honestly second that. Give them an after dark show, something.
It's not even a case. It's not even a case of not wanting them to go. I mean, and we make the jokes all the time here. I just look at it from literally just keeping us on the Apple clean feed. I mean, like you guys always say, oh, Mike's going to come down. I think I've mentioned maybe two things in the entire run of the show, and neither of them were really that serious. But, overall, like I said, I don't want to have to unleash them. I like them to be themselves. Again, it's just, I like the ACT the way they are, and I don't want them to change anything. So just say what you guys are doing. Just don't get worse.
If I can just say something very quickly, doing the UK podcast for so long now, from 04 through to 24, I haven't come across a pair of people as passionate and focused as those two, Mitch and Dimitri, right? And this is the first time I've met any of you guys, apart from Mike, realistically on a screen or had a conversation with properly outside of the Facebook group. But listening to ACT is a joy over every week. Every Saturday, it's a joy. As soon as it hits the iPod feed, it's listened to. Even my 6-year-old has started watching it and now walks around saying, "What is the GWO?" And it's like, I'll tell you when you're old enough, don't worry. And Mike, I think the same thing for you. It's like, from taking the show and how you've changed it and turned it and how you've reached new levels with it, it's a testament to you and everybody else, and to all the listeners as well, for supporting us each and every week as we release these pods. But yeah, I'm going to cough, so I'm going to go off mute. But it's an absolute pleasure to do it and to listen to everybody and give Joe a show. I'm going to end it there.
Dimitri, anything you want to chime in with, pal?
Yeah, I just, first and foremost, I do want to thank you, Mike, because, it starts from somewhere, and facilitating an opportunity for yourself and all of us here to have that forum. And Andy, thank you for those comments. I appreciate it. But I would say every single person that's a contributor on the Team MOW is from that same passion. And what I like is everyone gets a different style that is true to how everyone looks at wrestling. And I like how everything's different, but also everything's really the same. Like, we're just fans that are watching. We want to talk about it. We want to be entertained with it. We have the community. It's not even just us here that are doing the podcasts and the shows. It's the whole Team MOW community that I want to give a shout out to, because it's positive. It's great. It's just bringing everyone together. And I will say out of this too, so thank you to everybody. I truly mean that. I think it's you're only as strong as your community. But for the request, I will say this, that maybe we do a PLP, and that's a premium live pod, one night only. You could be Daddy Heyman for the day. Mitch and I come right out, unfiltered, uncensored, get right after it. All waivers signed, enter at your own risk. You want it, you got it.
Well done, buddy.
One time, right? And we'll do the old, what was the backdrop? The ICO, or what was it? The
ICO Pro. God, ICO Pro. Yeah.
ICO Pro, there we go. Yeah, we'll have everything in there. You bet. It's great. We'll do it. You want to start now? Okay, I had a thought.
Dimitri, I just got my broadcast career back. Can I have it for at least a year?
Listen. Mitch and I got kicked off from Apple from our other show. They kind of do it for 2 weeks. You get back on quick. It's easy.
No big deal. It's fine.
Gentlemen, thank you again. And to anybody listening out there, thank you for being a part and contributing just by listening. Again, we don't ask you for much. In fact, we don't ask you for anything except maybe to spread the word and get the notes out there and tell people what's going on over here. Because I think that, especially with what we've had here with the Holiday Hullabaloo, you guys and girls know I'm going to do my best to get you the best guests we can, give you the most fun content we have, and try and weigh the checks and balances as best we can, as well as keeping the content on the straight and narrow as well here. Last thing before we go, guys, I've been talking about it for a while, and I wanted to let you all know that coming up in the new year, we are going to be going through a small, but I feel big enough change as well. And that is that the Team MOW thing is still going to exist in spirit, but we are now going to brand under all our podcasts under the Celebrate Wrestling Podcasts Network. So this is going to be our new brand moving forward. and it's basically exactly the same. I always remember saying at the beginning that I always felt kind of weird about naming the thing after myself, and I still do. But McGuire on Wrestling is still going to be the show that I do every week. The ACT is still going to be the ACT. Andy Evans and the Legends Champion is still going to be there. And every show that Joe's a part of will still be the same thing, including We've Seen a Movie. But we're going to be rebranding just a little bit under Celebrate Wrestling. And that way, hopefully, it's easier for people to find as well. And it just gives us some more doors to open. So that is the quote-unquote big news. But the real big news, of course, is the fact that we ain't going anywhere. So,
yay! No?
And we're still not asking for money.
Boo.
Boo. There it is. But again, if you want to send a tip, you can through PayPal. Merch store going to be opening once we get the Celebrate Wrestling stuff out as well. But the long story short, guys, even growing this to the thing of having an umbrella brand over it, I never thought was going to be a thing. And that doesn't happen without all of you. So thank you again. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the Holiday Hullabaloo 2. And on behalf of Andy Evans, Joe Aguinaldo, Mitch Honsius, Dimitri Karolis, and everybody else that contributes to these shows every year, thank you for listening and letting us do what we do. Dimitri, I'll let you do it.
Until then, play safe, drive safe. I'll be seeing ya.
Chair shot.
Oh, shot fired.
I love it.
Who did that?
We took it over. We took it over.
Nikita!
You know, she's back now.
Okay, I want to get back to this one night only thing. I really
No, we're done. We're done.
I agree.
Show's over. Show's
I
over.
second the motion.
Show's over.